In the new world of AI, is there space for old world ethics and philosophy? My guest today is digging deep into the moral conundrums of emergent technology and figuring out how to protect us from ourselves. Okay, hello Vermont. ChatGPT was publicly released in 2022. It's not very long ago. And in the very short time since, AI has reached deep into our culture and society. You're hearing about it in the news. It's integrated into your phone. You've probably seen ads for AI-driven services offering everything from therapy and medical consultation to life hacks, business advice and recipes. It's the old, we're building the airplane while we're flying it. AI is everywhere, and it's all happening quickly. That's where my guest comes in. Juniper Lovato is an assistant professor of computer science at UVM and the co-principal investigator of a $20 million NFS grant that brings researchers and students at institutions across Vermont together to study the real-world impacts and application of advanced technologies like AI, all while training a new tech-savvy workforce to benefit the state in coming decades. Dr. Lovato, welcome.
Thank you.
This is going to be a fascinating conversation. She and I have already been chatting a little bit. I'm extremely into all of this, especially because I'm going to I'll just own it, I'm coming from a slightly more technophobic background. So this is going to be good. Not a debate, but a great conversation. All right, so let's start up. You're teaching in computer science, but you're also trained as a philosopher, which I love. So tell us a little more about how you ended up in computing.
Yeah, so I studied ethical and moral philosophy at St. John's College in Santa Fe, where I grew up. And at the same time, I was also working at the Santa Fe Institute, which is this complex systems think tank, but I was doing education and outreach for kids, teaching them computer science, and adults too. And I started to kind of get a little mad about all these tech companies taking our data and using it without our consent.
I'm assuming this is a familiar feeling to people.
And I was just mad enough where I was like, I want to do something about it. So I decided to do a PhD where I could combine my kind of background in education and computer science and in ethical philosophy. And I ended up studying sort of consent around data use in sort of online platforms. So I ended up making my own kind of brew of research, which was amazing. And now I teach computer science where I can kind of sneak in a lot of ethics into these computer science classes, which is great. And if I can do that every day, or if every time I teach a new computer science concept, if I can teach how to do it well and how to do it with best practices, then I feel like I've done my job.
Well, and you're genuinely sneaking it in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think when you and I were talking, you said that it's not a part of the established curriculum, but
Right.
for you, because it's important to you, because it's your background, you bring it into your coursework and are ensuring that your students are exposed to the ideas.
Absolutely, yeah. It's part of the framing. I teach data science, I teach natural language processing. These are the things that undergird large language models, that undergird all of AI and a lot of the kinds of data science and technology that we create. And I want to train sort of these people who are building this technology to think about it ethically first.
Right, to not just go bravely into what they can do, but to also think about the ramifications of what they're choosing to do.
What they should do.
What they should do. Oh, she even used the should word, I love it. Okay, so can you help us understand how AI works? So how does it become intelligent?
Yeah. So the kind of most modern version that you're probably familiar with is large language models. We call them LLMs. And these are a type of AI, one of many. And they work by gobbling up a bunch of text. They read in this text, and that's how they learn. They start to think about what are the connections that are being made in these texts. They start to look at the patterns and think about the rules that are happening in language. And then the sort of kicker is that they need a lot of text to do this, billions and billions of words.
Because this is how they're learning.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they end up going onto the internet and kind of like a dragnet, just sort of gobbling up as much data and as much text as they can. So this is things like all of Wikipedia, all of Reddit, as much things like books and as many things on the internet as they can kind of get their hands on. And the more they can get, the better they are at sort of learning the rules. So this is really important. But it also is one of the reasons why it's a little problematic, right? So these texts are representing the internet, and if we've all been on the internet, we know that there's a lot of questionable things on there.
Exactly. So when you're talking about it as a dragnet, it's like you're dragging in some of these things that are beneficial, that are thoughtful, that have layers and layers of research and expertise. It's also dragging in all of our terrible ideas and our contortions, and so it's learning from all of it, because it's not differentiating between the sources.
Right, exactly. So it's taking in all of those sources, and then it's learning from the user's prompt. It's saying like, okay, I'm going to try to answer your question the best I can by reciting back all of this information that I've collected from the internet back to you, and whatever the most sort of probable, most likely answer is, I'm going to give you. So it doesn't know if it's true or not. It doesn't sort of differentiate if it's good information or if it isn't good information. It doesn't have that kind of self-reflection. But it does know kind of what is the sort of most likely answer that I should be giving you.
Yeah, that's really interesting, that idea that it doesn't have self-reflection. It doesn't know if what it's saying is true or not. It's just coming up with the most likely answer given that answer's representation, say, in everything that it just surveyed.
Exactly.
That's interesting. So now doesn't this help to start explain to you when you've done, if you have ever done an AI query and gotten a result back that you're like, really? I mean, I'm not even 100% sure about that myself, and I'm not using my full computing power. Okay, well, so is this then where your background as a philosopher comes into play in your computer work, like your computing?
Definitely, yeah. I think, every day I kind of spend a lot of time thinking about emerging technology, new technology, and playing out these scenarios in my head where I'm like, doing little mini Black Mirror episodes. I'm thinking about how it could go wrong. And so I'm always trying to come up with scenarios of like, okay, what's going to happen? But also think through like, how can we fix this technology? How can we make it better? But I think it's really important to sort of think about how, like, we as a society, our morals and values sort of get implanted and encoded into this technology that we build. We're using sort of this technology to mirror us in a way, but how that technology then sort of ends up sort of encoding those values even more sort of deeply into our society.
Values and also our negative values.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So for better or for worse, these values are sort of being reinforced through the technology, and they can kind of automate whatever we're implanting into them. They can automate bias. So if we're only taking data from certain types of populations, people who are more represented on the internet, right? That's where the data is coming from. Then it's going to tell stories like those people. And it's going to have sort of a bias of what kinds of narratives and what kinds of facts it's going to give based off of the people that it was trained on. If it's going to be used in medicine, for example, it's going to collect data for the people who are accessing more care in medicine, or who have more insurance. They show up in the data. And it's going to get better at sort of diagnosing disease for those particular people. And that leaves a lot of other people behind. So when they're using this technology, when they're going to a doctor's office, they might not see themselves reflected in it.
Okay, so that's fascinating, because I was going to ask you for an example, and so now we've heard about medical technology, but you, I think, had some experience working in a school environment as well. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I've had a lot of fun. I've been attending these AI Vermont workshops for the last few years with K-12 teachers in Vermont. So I've just been listening to their stories for many years.
Because K-12 is also beginning to deploy AI into the classroom.
Yes, exactly. So I've been asking them how they're using generative AI, just for a few years, listening to their stories, their use cases. And one of the really interesting case studies that I heard about were teachers using it for personalized learning. So they're taking the large language models, and they're making sort of like personal stories or word problems in math that really sort of cater to the culture and the background of particular students, which is really cool, right? Like they're building these sort of custom lesson plans for every student. And that has a lot of positives, right? So in learning science, for example, like doing this kind of personalized learning, it can really offload a lot of like the cognitive load that a student has to take on. They don't have to like think about translating the names and places of certain things when they're reading a word problem. They can just focus on the reasoning of the math. But this can also have a flip side, right? So if the translation is bad, right? If you are stereotypical or kind of not representing the student.
You can undo all the good work.
You can undo all the good work.
Yeah.
And so that can really sort of feel like a threat, and that will just take on so much more cognitive load. So kind of is the opposite of what you want.
Well, actually, I want to jump ahead because this is obviously something that is going on in lots of educational settings. Unsurprisingly, AI is a hot and contentious topic on university campuses, equal parts hero and villain, depending on the setting and application. That's led to some messy governance policies and motivated Dr. Lovato and her team to start studying the social response to AI within higher ed. Here's a quick look.
Being a part of SOCS has really helped me think deeply about different ways in which we understand and analyze and collect stories for science. And so in my work, what I've been doing for the SOCS project is really playing with that idea. I'm really thinking about different kinds of methods and different types of data that could be turned or interpreted as a story. A new project that we have been working on is thinking about how higher education institutions are adapting to generative AI, how they're changing their policies and their frameworks to either sort of welcome generative AI into the university and college, or how they're trying to restrict generative AI. So this has been a really fun project. It's also been a very arduous one because it's a lot of text. We're looking at almost 1,000 universities, and we've had to sort of collect all of this data and do a lot of big textual analysis on it. Our big goal with this research is really just to understand how this big technology is really shaking up our institutions. How are we reacting to them?
Okay, here's the thing. I think basically I could sit here and talk to Dr. Lovato for forever, but having now had a tiny little taste of what's going on, I have to kind of leave us on one last question. Let's go out on a positive, is there an AI application that you're really excited about?
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, I think AI actually has some really...
Let's be positive, yes.
Yeah, exactly. Lots of really positive things. I think AI could be really useful for education, actually, if we do it well and we do it responsibly. I think that if we use it more as like a collaborator, if we kind of iteratively have it help us grow, and instead of sort of like taking over our creative processes and taking over...
Using it as a tool.
Using it as a tool.
Not giving it so much power.
Exactly.
Okay. You're going to come back on again, and we're going to have an even longer conversation about this. Because again, technophobe to thoughtful person, philosopher, she knows a lot. Dr. Lovato, thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
As always, Vermont, thank you for learning and exploring with me today. And thanks to the team that makes Across the Fence possible. I'm Amy Finley. This is Across the Fence. Come back and let's learn and explore again tomorrow.